Welcome back to PR After Hours. I'm your host, Alex Greenwood, bringing you your weekly cocktail of PR and marketing tips that will help you and your business. So are you tired of just getting by the day by day, hoping for the weekend to come? Do you feel tired of just trying to stay positive, knowing that deep inside you, you're not happy at all? Are you on that hamster wheel looking for success constantly? Is your job jobbing you? Well, I think this is going to be a special interview that you're going to enjoy today because I have Natsune Oki, who is going to change your life, I think, with her new book coming out in August. It's called The Game of Self-Domination, and she's the host of Life Up Education TV. She's fully dedicated her life to never-ending learning and passionate about inspiring others for success. Her goal is to help people reach their dreams and master their resilience in life. Welcome to the virtual lounge, Natsune.
Hi, Alex. Thank you very much for having me today. Wow, what an introduction. I loved it.
Well, I'm just honored to have you. And I've got to say, you are the first guest we've had from the wonderful nation of Japan.
Yay! Yeah, actually, currently I'm in Tokyo, but I also lived in the States for a little bit. But I think that's the case for many podcasts I've been so far.
I run two shows, and just yesterday I interviewed a gentleman, an author from Italy, and the week previous to that I did a author from Brazil.
Wow.
And about 4 weeks ago, an author from Scotland. So it's just really fun the world is so small now in so many good ways. Enough about me blathering about me. Let's talk about you. First off, I got to understand, and I watched some episodes, it's pretty cool, but for the people who don't know, what is Life Up Education TV?
Yeah, so Life Up Education TV is pretty much the media outlet I'm developing where I interview high performers. So the biggest theme of my life, I'm super inspired by possibility of humanity. That's like a center theme that I live by. And I really want to inspire people for showing the possibility of humanity. So that being said, I'm inviting guests from all walks of life, but like people, innovators, scientists, like really all walks of life who can talk about how to optimize our performance level to be a high achiever for everybody. And my vision, actually, I'm still building it. I actually just started the show because of the book launch as well. I'm actually planning to excel a little bit more once I once I launch my book. But yeah, so my vision for the show is actually I want to combine between, do you know the impact theory?
Mm-hmm.
And I love impact theory. I'm such a big fan of Tom Bilyeu. And also, Ellen's show.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of want to combine the two show and I want to make it into one. It'll be fun.
I think that'll be fantastic. That'd be fantastic. Yeah. So, and how do people access Life Up? Is it a subscription, or can you just go online and look at it anytime?
Yeah, good question. No, people subscribe it. It's on YouTube. It's also on my website, LifeUpEducationTV.com. Today, I interviewed someone from Australia. He interviewed Grant Cardone,
Yeah, Grant Cardone, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, whoa. But he's super killing it. He's a superstar entrepreneur who grew his business from one office to 35 office locations just within 6 months. It was just really inspirational, super edgy, so it was fun. But yeah, you can expect stories like that, basically.
I think we can handle that. I think our listeners would love that, as a matter of fact. That's great. And you also have a blog, correct?
Yeah, but I think this is something that I find interesting, but also true. I also follow a lot of digital marketing professionals online, and some of them are saying we're gonna go completely out of text from now on. We kind of saw different transitions in the digital age so far, and things are moving toward videos, audios, these kind of things. So I'm not necessarily super stoked about the blog itself anymore. Even the SEO itself, it's changing definitely to the section. You need to kind of optimize for your voice, SEO, or, like some high level stuff that's coming up. And I think SEO in the text probably it's not gonna be a big thing like coming next like 5 years or so. So I think I'm gonna eventually like move all my assets more for the audio experience or even video.
Yeah, Natsune, I think that's why I asked you the question, just because now of course, I'm an old geezer, and I started my career as a writer and a public, then got into public relations, and well, I'm still a writer, and I've got a face for radio. So the the reason I ask is because, as you did say, SEO wise, it's video.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where it's at. I tell this to clients all the time. I say, okay, what's the biggest search engine on the planet, or at least one of the biggest? They say naturally Google. And I say, who owns YouTube? And they say Google. And I say, okay, then you seeing a pattern here? And people are like, oh, okay, so maybe I should do video,
Yeah.
Before you did Education TV, what was your background?
So this is one thing I'm doing is Life Up Education TV, but I also have another one. It's called the Foreign Connect. It's a company in Tokyo. I help Japanese businesses to connect with American businesses. Basically, I come in as service broker for American businesses for any companies who want to enter American market. The biggest problem is that they don't know how to communicate or work with American companies, right?
Right.
So basically, that's how I come in. I would help them to negotiate, hire, like project management, like really like A to Z for them to work with the companies in America. So that one is called Foreign Connect. And before this, I was working for another American company. They were doing a lot of marketing. And so basically, so my background, because you asked my background, basically probably the biggest journey started from when I moved to America. And when I moved to America, basically I did not know, no friends, no English, like literally nothing. Like,
wow.
Yeah, like it was a big move. And I was still a teenager, right? And I just basically went there, and I suffered a lot from it because I couldn't even communicate.
Right.
But I am, when I look back my life, I always have been very courageous person. Like even in high school, like I actually mentioned this in my short bio, where I said I was almost kicked out student in high school. And that was probably like one of the first event where my courageousness showed up in a very early, adulthood. And what happened was I just couldn't follow the rules that didn't apply to me. But then if you grew up in Japan, you'll understand this. You, in this education system in Japan, things are either right or wrong. Like things are either white or black, basically. So if you have your opinion, like you're pretty much like, difficult to manage. So society doesn't like that. So you're told you're failure. You're told you're loser for being unique, basically. Everybody, like here, especially, I think it's to some extent this happens in anywhere in the world. Probably some American people would experience the same thing, but the degree is so different. Like Japan, it's super extreme. So we use a lot of word to describe like shamefulness, or like you needed to feel ashamed for being different. Like that's literally the exact expression I would say. So the degree is very extreme for someone to want to be someone else, want to be different from other people. But for me, like I said, I have always been very courageous person that I just couldn't take it. Like I much rather being a bad kid and then just express who I was, over being told by the society what to do. So, because of that, I got in a lot of trouble because I was always a curious kid and I wanted to like, just explore the curiosity. I just didn't want to prevent my curiosity, right? So I just went with it. And then that got me into a lot of trouble. And at some point, like I remember, for example, like in school, like they called in all of us, like literally from old classes, and then they were talking about me in front of the entire school and say like, this student might, get kicked out, might not, like, it was so crazy. But anyway, so what happened was I was like that. And then I finally decided, look, if I stay here in this society, there's no way I would be able to become successful in according to their definition. I really need to see outside of Japan. So from there, I kind of decided and then make the first move. And then I decided to study business. And then there also, once again, I took the very courageous decision where, normally a lot of international students I knew, for example, would just go straight to the university afterwards.
Right. Yeah.
But I really wanted to see the world, like outside of school. So I decided to just take some break from the school, and then I started working for and with entrepreneurs and a lot of like next generation thinkers and innovators. And that really gave me inspiration of like, wow, like I really want to grow into the leader of next generation. I want to understand the world in a way that I understand what's needed by the humanity for us to advance our capability, like to the next generation. So like my macro thinking got really expanded because of the people I was interacting with at that time. So I was going to study business, but then it really changed my direction into economics. So I ended up kind of like acquiring both. But, economics was such an interesting study because it would include still like a strong element of business, right? Like it still talks about money and finances, like stuff like that. But then you also include another variable of society, such as like education, technology, like politics, like a little bit of, and then that really makes you as like a rounded person rather than like just money oriented person. So I really like that about study. And I think in the end of the day, like I care more about impact of people in people, like impact of business in people rather than impact of business in money. Like I'm not too money driven person. So that kind of like shifted there. And then after that, I got a job in America, which actually once again, like I had taken very courageous decision at that time. And what I did was basically I decided like to just move to one place to another, like completely, I wouldn't say random, but I didn't necessarily like, plan for it. But what I was looking for was that struggle. Like I, like basically when I moved for the first time, I struggled a lot, but then it really grew me, right? So I was looking that same feeling. I thought, wow, like I'm getting used to it. I'm so comfortable here. Let me just get out. And then I went from Washington State to Florida, like the entirely different place.
Yeah.
No, with once again, no money, no connection, nothing at all. And then so basically it got really bad at some point that I was so not stable at the time. So what happened was like I had to move from one place to another in a matter of a week. Like that was that level of this, and then, but so at that time I even started like looking for opportunities in Tokyo, because in Tokyo my market value is like super high. If I were to find an opportunity in Tokyo versus in America, like it's completely different story. So I actually decided to look for some opportunity in Tokyo, and then the next day I literally, like after starting to find, like the next day I literally got like a bunch of interviews. And then the one of the interviews I got was actually with this really, really huge corporation who, and then I got to the very final interview with that corporation. And then he was a former CEO of Uber in Japan when it first launched, but then he moved to this company. So it wasn't Uber, but somewhere else. And then, at that time, I still very much remember, like he asked me, so why, Natsune, why did you move to Florida from Washington, right? And then I really couldn't come up with the answer at that time. But now I think of it, that was like probably one of the best decisions I've ever made. Is that like I sounded basically stupid because I didn't know what the appropriate like a corporate answer was. I I just couldn't come up with it. So, but now my answer is that I was looking for struggle. I was looking for the opportunity to be desperate.
Hmm.
Like desperation is scary. Like
Mm-hmm.
not many people are willing to go there, right?
Right.
But then if you really want to be the leader in your life, if you really want to dominate, like if you really need to like want to master, like know how to master your own talk, like there's no other way than not avoiding the extreme situations or like not protecting yourself against that. Like you kind of need to let it go, and then you just need to be willing to accept anything as they come.
Right.
So that was basically where my like inner, I guess, desire was at. I just really didn't want to be comfortable,
Right.
but then I really couldn't word it out because it didn't sound logical to like corporate interviews, right? So I of course didn't get the job, and then I I always looked back and thought, wow, like that was such a failure, right? Like I always thought that, but then now I think of it, I'm so thankful that it didn't happen because really like that point, it allowed me to be not comfortable. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the reason we go to school, for example, like everything has an answer, but then
Right.
if you really want to play in the market, there's no answer. Like you needed to understand, like market comes first. So your comfortability, your feeling like doesn't mean shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Right.
there's no right or wrong answer. So you kind of need to be able to navigate that. And if you want to be truly capable, you needed to be okay with that uncomfortability. You need to be okay with that state of like desperation, right?
Right. Right.
So I really wanted to grow myself, not at the resume or surface level, but then at the very core level as a leader. So that's why I kind of did it. But I really couldn't word it out at that time. So I always referred back as, failure point. But basically what happened was I finally got something else. But
Mm-hmm.
as you can probably imagine, I was a foreigner with like limited working visa status and whatever. I really couldn't get any like a good job. Like it was like such a shitty job I got. But like again, like it was such a horrible situation, like such a tough, every day was super tough. Like this owner, we worked very closely at that point, and he was very very poor in emotional intelligence.
Ah.
And I understand that, when you run your business, I understand, like, you're just constantly in chaos, and I understand why you can go crazy.
Yeah.
But he was exactly crazy, and he just really couldn't handle that chaosness. I think
Hmm.
he was very emotional guy. So he would just like curse at me. He would throw objects on the floor, like
Oh.
make big noises and just like crazy stuff, right? And then I was very kind. I'm respectful Japanese young lady. So, he basically took advantage of that situation and made me add something to blame for everything what's happening to him. And once again, like I understand how chaotic it can get, and then the amount of stress you might feel. But in the end of the day, like, I mean, that's why you're a leader, right? Like if you
Right.
don't like it, don't be entrepreneur. Like, that's it. But
That's true.
anyway, so that was like another stuff, that was another calling, basically made me to be really disgusted about my life situation that I
Hmm.
just really needed to change. So once again, I changed. And then from there, I basically worked for another company, which was like super way better. And actually I met a lot of good people, and also even mentor. um, and he wrote the books too, and he was like meeting all a bunch of like people like Gary Vee and Richard Branson, like all these people, and I was like,
Right.
wow. So he inspired me a lot as well, and we worked together. And I basically, after some time, I came back to Tokyo, and I was still working with the same company, and we were like making pitches to Tokyo companies as well here.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, we decided to go different way. And so at that time, I kind of decided to like open my own businesses. And then I started running like, a few different online shops. And then some were successful, some were like not successful. But still like it was experience, and I was like running some online shops. And then I decided, well, I was already doing something similar than before, where, I was trying to sell American services to Japanese companies, basically. So why don't I just like make it as a business? And then that's how Foreign Connect came up. And then that's how kind of who I am right now.
We'll continue our interview right after this message. Hello, listeners. It's me, Alex, from PR After Hours. I hope you're enjoying the show so far. And I wanted to talk to you just for a moment about the way I get this show right into your earbuds every week. It's because I use Anchor FM. Now, I've told you previously that I've been podcasting since 2006, back when we used stone knives and bear skins and a couple of Dixie cups and string. Anchor FM has really streamlined this and made it simpler for people who don't know the first thing about setting up a podcast, or don't have time to learn all the pro tools and stuff, because it's all right here. First thing it's important to know is it's free. There are certain tools that will allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. That's huge. Distribution is a big pain in the butt, to be honest with you, so it's really great Anchor FM can do that for you, and you're not paying hosting fees. That adds up every month. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started, and be sure to join me in the virtual cocktail lounge on PR After Hours. I'm so glad you gave us that journey, because that leads us right into the book, because you are obviously a proponent of self-mastery, and you learned, I think, at an early age about self-mastery. You learned all these lessons. So let's talk a little bit about the Game of Self-Domination, your upcoming book. What's that all about, and what can people get from that book?
Yeah, so through these crazy journeys, I had faced many times where I could easily come up with the reasons why I was failing, right? Like I could easily blame on someone else or outside force for why I wasn't achieving what I wanted to achieve. But really, like at any level, I noticed that I always picked myself up basically whenever I faced my adversity, and that really made me stronger for who I was, and that really expanded me. So, and then I looked at the common thing, like through all these, and I noticed that my mindset, like my willingness, was always my helper. I literally didn't have anyone or anything to rely on for many times, right? But I always relied on my mindset, and that was like literally the only tool that I could rely on. So I, by force, to some extent, I had to come up with, because I didn't have any other option, I had to come up with my own, like a mindset guide that will help me like moving forward, even now. And then I basically came to the conclusion that it's always the game of self-domination. So that's where the book is coming from. I can also give you a little bit of summary of what I talk about in the book.
Yeah, let's do a quick rundown of what's in the book, and then the add-ons to it and the things you're offering people. There's a pre-order, all that stuff. Let's because we're getting close on time, but let's go through the basics of the book, and then what special offers you have for people who get out in front of it before August 15th.
Yeah, so the book is structured in 3 different phases. I'm going to talk about how to break that like mental transformation in 3 different phases. The first phase, I talk about the importance of having desperation and inspiration. So when you want to commit something, when you really want to make a change, you need momentum. How can you create momentum? Momentum can be created when you're truly disgusted about your situation, but at the same time, you need to be inspired in a sense that from your core, like from your soul, from your body, everything needs to believe that whatever you want to achieve is possible to achieve. So that's like a first phase that's going to create the momentum for you to commit. And then also I talk about the importance of self-awareness, because the momentum wouldn't last you for too long. So you really needed to, like, you can't fake it. This
Right.
disgusted feeling or this inspiration, you can't feel it. I mean, you can't fake it. You really needed to dig deep inside of you and find that, like, disgust feeling or the inspiration that puts you up, right? So that's the second thing I talk about. And then the third thing I talk about, actually not the third thing, um the second phase. Okay, this is confusing. It was the first phase, okay? And the next one I talk about is the second phase.
Mm-hmm.
Second phase is like 100 times more important than the first phase, because first phase is just the momentumness, and then you can create that. But then the problem is some people succeed once, and then some people just, don't last that success for long enough. And then once again, this is the point where your mindset is very, very important. It all comes down to managing your mind.
Right.
The second phase, what I talk about, is the importance of visualization, which kind of sounds lala, but it really does. It really does make sense, because, like, brain, for example, our brain, what we perceive as a reality is not necessarily reality. We are always perceiving reality as, like, perception of our reality. What That's what we understand as a reality, right?
Right.
So when we think about that, like, our brain, the information that sends us what reality is, it's all hallucination backed by senses, meaning that, like, whatever you visualize,
Mm-hmm.
you have that body and mind connection that, when you visualize something, your body try to align with what your mind is seeing. So it's like, because of that body and mind connection, like, when you have the visualization going, your body basically works in that way. But
Right.
I mean, this is very short summary of what I talk
Sure.
about. Like,
Sure.
definitely, like, I go deeper into that. And I actually give some couple of examples, like, from actual, like, science studies,
Right.
of how brain works and stuff. But anyway, so that's something I talk about. And then I also talk about this matrix is actually pretty interesting.
Right.
Um, so it's a matrix that I developed. I call it Life Up Method. Basically, it helps you to be very organized in the way you communicate within yourself, but also to manage your tasks in a day
Right.
in priority. And it consists of 5 different concepts. The first one comes from Italian engineer. The second one comes from British economist. The third one comes from uh, McKinsey. And then the fourth one comes from Toyota. So 2 corporate strategies, and then 2 from just academia, like, people. And
Right.
then the fifth one finally comes from the 34th US president. And then he was, yeah.
President Eisenhower, the Eisenhower matrix, right?
Right. But then I kind of basically added my own take to it from that 4 concepts. And then I added something to develop scoring system.
Oh, well, now, Natsune, we did an episode of this show on the Eisenhower matrix. So now I'm just dying to get your book and see what you've done to tweak that a little bit. That's exciting.
Yeah, no, I think it's really cool matrix. I actually got feedbacks from, I had like some beta readers before I,
Sure.
finished the book. And then, like, literally everybody who read the book loved this chapter. So I'm really stoked. And then I also talk about philosophical questions about life, because, it all comes down to why are we here, right? Like,
Right.
to some degree, I can ask you different questions to really make you courageous in life, because I'm gonna change your narrative about your failure. Like, I'm not gonna, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's what I talk about. And then the third phase, I talk about finally the definition of success and happiness. But it sounds kind of cliche, but, like, I talk it in a way that's not very modernly talked about. Because, like, for example, I would touch point from the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle in the earlier chapter, where he says happiness is virtual activities of the soul. And then that is to say that, like, don't look at failure as something that's gonna pull you down, but then like see it as an opportunity to be happier because you're meeting your true potential and becoming who you are.
Yeah, and it's all about what you say. It's all about courage, about having the courage, not only to try new things, not the courage to be desperate, but the courage to look within yourself and make changes in yourself. That's easier said than done. So I appreciate that this book offers a path for that.
Yep. So I'm very excited. And then yeah, so that summarizes for the third phase. And then we were going to talk about where the book is going to be available.
Yes.
My book is available on my website, LifeUpEducationTV.com. You can go under like a book, I think it's called the book launch tab.
Yes.
And then you just click on it, and then there's that order page. Or else you can also order it through Amazon. But yeah, so far these are the places you can get it.
Yeah, and it's on pre-order because the book comes out August 15th. Is that right? Okay, and I'm checking the Amazon link right now, folks. It's right there. The Game of Self-Domination, 15 Most Practical Steps to Self-Mastery and Achieving Anything You Want. You can get the Kindle edition pre-ordered, and then it'll just drop right into your Kindle the day of launch. And that's if I may say, it's $5 US. That's really great. Now, do you have any other limited time offers for folks? I see on their website, but I don't want to say it unless they're activated.
Yeah, no, yeah, so I'm planning to make my book at 60% off, which is already effective. That's why you're seeing $5.
Okay.
But usually this book is $13 in an ebook version, and then $18 in a paper copy. Right now, well, something that I'm doing on my website is you can sign in on my email list, and then you will get the first free chapters. I have like a first, second, even second chapters for free. And then you can kind of get the feeling of like, okay, what is this book about?
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. There
is so much, and there's so much here, and we've kind of hit the wall on our time, unfortunately, Natsune. But this is fantastic. I just to recap. I think that everybody could take a moment to really think about their success and maybe the things that are challenging that success. And of course, in the time of a pandemic, it's even more important. The good news is you may have a little bit more time, and I would really recommend you look into Natsune Oki's book and see if that can help you. But I also like the fact that you have all these videos and all this encouragement, but it's not, as you kind of said earlier, it's not sweet talking people, as we say in America. You're kind of giving it to them straight. And saying, these are the things you need to do, and these are the things you need to do, and to show courage, and again, be comfortable with being uncomfortable, those sorts of things. So I think it's really worthwhile, and I appreciate you sharing it with us.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate what you said too. I think also another thing, I very shortly mentioned this in an earlier section of my book. I say, if you are looking for like a quick result of something, this book is not for you, because life is a work. Like, I'm gonna help you to navigate, navigate the adversity and how to create the courage and everything. But at the end of the day, it's on you. Like, you need to be willing to work on your life.
Well, and it's obvious that you've done that, and sincerely, the courage to leave your home country, to go to a country you don't even speak the language, you don't have a huge amount of financial support, and yet you found your way, and now you found your way back to Tokyo, and you are still just as, I'll say it, kicking ass, and it sounds fantastic. Everybody, go look in the show notes for the links to LifeUpEducationTV.com. There's a very, very rich website with all kinds of information. Do sign up, pre-order the book. It's got a great cover, by the way. It's beautiful. And there's all sorts of stuff you can find there with Natsune Oki. Natsune, thank you so much for joining us in the virtual lounge.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alex. I really had a good time today.
Oh, you know what that means? Looks like it's last call here at your virtual lounge for PR news, views, and interviews. Don't forget, you can ask me a question anytime. You can do it through our Twitter account, which is @HoursPR, or Even better, you can send me a message vocally. I would love to hear your voice, and I'll answer it on the show. There's a link in the show notes. All you have to do is sign up through Anchor FM. It's free, doesn't take long, and you record your message. I get the message. I will play your audio. Just give me your first name and the city you live in, and then I will answer the question to the best of my ability right here on the show. Don't forget to, if you're enjoying this podcast, you can support it and help increase the frequency and value of the show. Just consider being a sponsor for your brand or your agency or just yourself because you're like, I like this show. Or just drop a few coins in the virtual tip jar. Either way, there's links in the show notes. Please check that out. All of that, of course, being in the show notes where you're listening right now or at prafterhours.com. I see that they're turning up the lights. Last call is over, and I've got to clean up this virtual lounge. And until next time, I'm Alex Greenwood, and you've been listening to PR After Hours on Anchor FM.